I mean, this is not new, but it wasn't heavily adopted until the pandemic and people didn't have a choice. And I imagine over time, it'll be the same with AR. Not that we won't have a choice, it's just that the experiences will be better and retailers will remind you that this is here to help you.
Hey gang, it's Monday, December 6th. Suzy and listeners, welcome to the Behind the Numbers Daily, an eMarketer podcast made possible by Basis Technologies. I'm Marcus, and today I'm joined by one of our principal analysts who heads up our retail and e-commerce practice. It's Suzy Davidkhanian.
Hey Marcus, how's it going?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you so much. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm great.
Whoa, top shelf.
Yeah, we're talking about my favorite topic, shopping.
Yeah, we go. Before that though, today's fact. One town's residents all live under the same roof. This is true. The town of Whittier, Alaska, sits on the shore of Prince William Sound, an hour southeast of Anchorage, towards basically the bottom of Alaska. It's a small community of just over 200 people, but they all live together under the same roof. So they live in this town, and they all live inside a huge 14-story building called the Begich Towers, and the other buildings in the town are pretty much all connected with tunnels. It's a former military base that was built during World War II, so they all live in these former army barracks. And there's a 2-mile tunnel that goes through a mountain that you need to use to get in and out of the town, and that closes at 10 p.m. It's a real place. It's bad enough getting locked out of your house. Being locked out of your own town would be troubling. Suzy, would you move there?
I wouldn't, because I think it's just too cold. It's probably why it's all in one place and you have to go underground to get to wherever you're going. In Montreal, I lived there for a while. There's an underground mall scenario happening where multiple malls are connected by some underground shopping as well. So I have experience, and I know I would not move there.
Yeah, the malls, it's pretty cool. When I went and visited, that was really cool to see. But of everything I said about 200 people in the same town living under one roof, your response was no, because it's too cold. Not because the tunnel in and out of town closes at 10 p.m. or that everyone lives in the same house. It's just too cold. You're from Canada. What do you mean it's too cold? Alaska is next to Canada. It's higher than Canada.
But I still find Canada too cold. And the thing is, I live in an apartment building in New York, so I'm already living with more than 200 people in one roof. So that does seem really weird to me.
Suzy's living that horror already. Fair enough.
I go to bed by 10 most days.
That's my life.
Because I don't have a life. So
all right.
There you go.
You'd fit in well. You'd fit in well in Whittier. Anyway, today's real topic. How online shopping will change in 2022. What 5 trends will shape the future of e-commerce? Online shopping questions Carmen Ang of Visual Capitalist in conjunction with e-commerce solutions company Logic. And so, Suzy, she noted 5 trends that she believes will shape the future of e-commerce. We'll quickly go through them, and then I want to know which 2 stood out to you. Which 2 do you think are the most important, the most likely to materialize, the most likely to move the needle? Number 1, omni-channel shopping. It's obviously the line between physical and the digital worlds. Number 2, AI, artificial intelligence, and AR, augmented reality. You guys know what those are. Number 3, new payment options, digital wallets, mobile payments, cryptocurrency, things like that. Number 4, the rise of visual commerce. And here they're talking about having high quality photos and videos of products and the use of visual commerce through AR as well. And then number 5, data-driven dynamic pricing, which can be made even better using AI. So one more time, omnichannel shopping, AI and AR, new payment options, the rise of visual commerce, and data-driven dynamic pricing. Suzy, which 2 do you think are the most important?
I have so much to say about this because we have our own 5 trends that just published last Friday.
Oh, okay, very good.
So I would say I would take omni-channel and move it to the all-channel, because omni-channel originally was just like, how do you move between the store and your website in a seamless way so that the customer has one unified experience? And now I think it's beyond just the website and the store, but it's voice commerce for people that are using Alexa or Google to make purchases. It's car commerce, which is starting to become a little bit of a thing. Live streaming, social media platforms are facilitating commerce. So I think this idea around every channel is a potential gateway for commerce is important. It's more than the store and online. And in fact, one of our trends really is around, it's this plus the AR VR trend that she's talking about, how consumers go and shop everywhere and anywhere, and how it's really important to meet them where they are, but that the store will always be an important hub because it's 80% of sales. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's even more than 80% of sales. But by 2025, it'll be 80% of sales. And so how do you make sure that you have an engaging experience for the consumer when they come to your store so that they keep coming back?
Yeah, to your point, omnichannel, a lot of times talking about the online and the store. There's some research in this piece that says 74% of customers do online research before visiting a physical store. 3/4 of people are checking out things online before they visit a physical store, which is why omnichannel strategies can generate an estimated 80% of a business's in-store visits, according to Think with Google. Is there one channel more so than the rest that you think might have its moment or be just a point of emphasis in 2022?
Yes, I think it'll be the store. I think people are tired of being on their phones and on screens. And as people start to feel safer and safer, bar the newest variant that's coming out, but as people start to feel safer and safer and want to be out, that they're going to want to go to stores. But I do think the responsibility will be on the retailer to have interesting brand partnerships, interesting experiences, maybe gamification, maybe have some, food outlets or something that draws people back over and over again to their store. But I think consumers, as you noted in the study, want to and are excited about going to stores.
To what you were saying before, 84% of everything bought is going to be bought in a store, and that's next year. So for all of this talk about buying things online, it's just 16%. And the rest, 84%, the overwhelming majority of things in the US are still bought in stores. We'll get to some more online shopping numbers from us in a bit. But Suzy, is there another one of these trends that kind of leaps off the page more so than the others in terms of making an impact in 2022?
Of the trends that they've highlighted, I guess the other one I would say is maybe AR VR, and it kind of goes together with the store, right? And more than the store, it's consumers in 2020 and 2021 have become so accustomed to moving back and forth between online and in store, so that all these digital tools are really important. And that's where I think AR comes in. How do we help you have a really good, quote unquote, faked out in-store experience in your apartment or in your home? And how do you have a fun, engaging experience, kind of like the Harry Potter store here in New York City, where you go in and you are flying over the castle and you're enjoying your experience in the store. So I think that's probably the other trend that I would say is an important one to keep an eye on. Not new, but something that all brands are thinking about and are stepping out of their usual sort of four walls to figure out what they can do that'll make sense for the customer.
One of the numbers that jumped out to me at the AR section, and they include AI and AR here, but obviously a lot of folks do include VR with that, the idea of different realities, whether that's virtual, augmented, mixed. They noted that the global AR market is expected to be $90 billion in 5 years, 90, according to Facts and Factors. The global AI market, that was AR, the global AI market is expected to be 3 times as large, according to Markets and Markets. So, Suzy, on the one hand, you have these numbers suggesting that AR is going to be a huge deal. However, some research from Artillery Intelligence and Thrive Analytics from March of this year, looking at the types of mobile AR content that Americans have experienced. And games is number one. Most people experiencing things like Pokemon Go, NBA AR, then social, Snapchat lenses, things like that, way behind in second. In third place is furniture, or car visualization, so placing IKEA furniture in your home, or visual search comes in fourth place, using a smartphone camera to identify items. The two shopping ones here, so IKEA furniture and visual search using a smartphone to identify items, those shares aren't that impressive. And actually from 2020, the numbers go down from 2020 to 2021. And then there's another chart here from BizRate Insights, and they're asking how interested are US shoppers in using AR and VR while shopping. And of everyone, just 4% of people use it regularly, and 9% have used it before but not regularly. Those numbers aren't that impressive at all. Most people are saying haven't used it, not interested, or used it but still not very interested. Where do you stand on this? Do you see VR, AR becoming a big deal next year, or is it just too early? Customers just aren't that interested right now.
So I don't know that it's too early. I just think that, like, if you use your IKEA example, I'm not surprised it's low because people aren't always buying furniture, right? And not everybody's always buying furniture. So depending on when you do the survey and you're trying to figure out how are people thinking about some of these technologies, and more important, how is it adding convenience and ease and speed to their experience? Furniture shopping isn't probably the first one. And that kind of goes in line with what's happening in stores. You know, that I bet if you ask the folks from lining up at the Harry Potter store, how likely are you to use AR technology? It's high. They're waiting in the store line to go and probably try out one of the two different experiences that's based on that technology. So I think it's just, if the retailer doesn't have a sense of urgency for the experience, or like some cachet to the experience, then people are not likely to use it. And I think if it doesn't add value in their life from a shopping perspective, they're not likely to use it. But then if you look at the Ulta or the Sephoras of the world that are using that technology to help with foundation and lipstick, so you don't even have to try it on, you can just use the technology to see if that's the right shade for you or the right color for your lipstick. So I think it's a bit like the metaverse, right? Everybody's talking about it, but we don't have any really amazing use cases for it right now in shopping specifically. And so it's hard for people to imagine why they would be using it if they can't wrap their head around it.
How often does the average person buy makeup?
Oh, that is such a good question. I think it depends who you ask and what the average person, but I mean, technically you're supposed...
It's not every day.
No,
right?
It's definitely not every day. I think probably at least 2 or 3 times a year.
Oh, okay. My point being that there is, virtual makeup try on. There are apps where you can try on a pair of glasses on your face. You can put furniture in your home, but all of these purchases are infrequent, to your point. And so there isn't any habits being built in terms of using this type of technology regularly for anything, at least at the moment. So that would make sense.
Have you used any of these types of technologies?
No, I haven't. And I bought glasses recently and it didn't even cross my mind. I wanted to see the actual pair of glasses on my face, even if I had to, have them delivered and wait 7 to 10 days and then ship them back. It's not a replacement for the experience. I haven't needed to buy any furniture recently. I might use that feature because I think that's pretty handy, but yeah, these just aren't that regular. How about you? What is your experience with these types of services?
So I actually used it with Amazon to buy some sort of storage unit for my apartment. And instead of going to get a measuring tape, I just did it and I could see that it fit. So then I was like, perfect, let's get it. So it made it so easy for me. And they prompted like, hey, you can use this feature. So that was so easy that it was a no-brainer for me. And I think what you're saying is 100% true. It didn't even cross your mind. You need to be aided. Like you would have needed that company for the glasses to tell you, hey, you have this option. And it's kind of like curbside pickup, right? Click and collect has existed in some form, whether it's curbside pickup, buy online, pick up in store. I mean, this is not new, but it wasn't heavily adopted until the pandemic and people didn't have a choice. And I imagine over time, it'll be the same with AR. Not that we won't have a choice. It's just that the experiences will be better and retailers will remind you that this is here to help you.
Yep. And you're going to probably have to learn about these things in store. There is some research from YouGov asking people where they would like to try these types of experiences, augmented reality, virtual reality, things like that. And aside from the upfront cost, a lot of these things can be expensive if you're buying headsets, things like that. People wanted to use these types of services, these types of features in store. And so maybe that's where they get used to it and then they take that behavior home. What other trends, Suzy, do you think were left off this list? We're going to definitely cover all of the trends that we have from the different spaces at Insider insider intelligence, be that retail, be that social media, digital video, etc. But maybe there was a trend from that list of 5 that you said just dropped last Friday, or another trend that you think was left off this list.
So it's not from our list of 5 because I want everybody to either read the report or we have a webinar coming up with our trends. So I'm going to leave that alone. But I will tell you that one of the things that we don't talk about often, which I think it's like a resurgent of the old. So I noticed in the last 2 or 3 weeks that I've been getting catalogs from companies that I was not expecting to get catalogs in the mail. And it was Amazon. They've had a toy catalog for a while, but it was a fashion catalog, like literally just clothing. And then I got a Home Depot catalog, which I was really not expecting gifts from Home Depot. And so I think that as people, again, are getting tired of being on their phone and on computers and screens in general, that maybe I think there will be a resurgent of some more traditional ways of getting people's attention, and catalogs might be one of them.
Mm-hmm. For me, the other trend is click and collect. I mean, 60% of US internet users use click and collect this year, according to us. And that number's not going to go up too much over the coming years. It will live in the low 60s for the next couple of years. So that's kind of plateauing somewhat. But there's a lot of people, as most people in the country, using click and collect services. What's interesting is sales are going to double in the next 3 years when it comes to click and collect. So a lot of people are still very interested in that service. Suzy, as we mentioned before, next year, 84% of shopping is going to be done in the store, which means 16% will be done online. That's up from 14% this year. So 14% of shopping being done online this year. Next year, 16%. By 2025, it will be 1/5. So 22% of shopping in the US will be done online. And it really depends by category, doesn't it? I mean, if you look at some of these numbers by category, you've got pretty much 2/3 of books, music, and videos being bought online, half of computer and consumer electronics being bought online, 40% of toys and hobby. When you look at food and beverage, is 6%. When you look at auto and parts, is 4%. So there's a lot of variation if you look under the hood of some of these numbers. What do you make of our numbers and how they look to you with regards to what we're expecting online shopping-wise in 2022?
I mean, I agree completely. To no surprise, I agree with our numbers. I definitely think it's important to remember that stores are such a big bulk of sales. And as you pointed out, apparel is 33% is online versus in store. It's obviously the balance. Understanding the business that you're in and where people are shopping and making sure that you chat with them wherever they are, whenever they want to be talked to, and that you can follow them along in a seamless kind of way so that they know that you identify who they are. And so that when you're giving them ads, that it makes sense to them. And when you're talking to them through email, that you're reminding them of what it is that they were looking at or wanted to purchase. I think that's really important.
Yep.
And it's important to note that while stores is a big, and I believe in this wholeheartedly, stores is a very important component of sales. Growth is slowing. This year we saw a huge increase, but growth is slowing and it'll be relatively flat for the next 3 years that we're forecasting. And so it's important to remember that you have to invest in online because that's where the growth is, but the volume driver is stores.
You mentioned apparel, and there are some categories here which are moving quickly. You've got to pay attention to them, and some which aren't moving that much at all in terms of how much the shopping is being done online versus in-store. Apparel, as you mentioned, 34%, 33% of shopping being done online. Today, pre-pandemic, 25%, 26%. Today, a third. In 4 years' time, half. So it goes from a quarter 2 years ago to a third today to half in 4 years' time. So that is moving quick. Another category, which isn't food and beverage, 6% today, was 3% pre-pandemic, but it will be 10% in 4 years' time. So a lot of variation when you look at these in more detail. Suzy, that's all we've got time for the lead story. Time now for the halftime report. Suzy, if you could hit us with one takeaway from the first half.
I think it's really important to remember that consumers shop where and when they want, and they want the experience to be easy and convenient and quick. And so as you think about 2022, think about that merging of the digital and the physical, as well as how do you keep your customers and potential customers and consumers in general entertained so that they keep coming back to you and have a sense of urgency and have a compelling offer.
Suzy, what's our retail trends report called that dropped last Friday?
The report is called Insider Intelligence Retail Trends to Watch in 2022. Consumer expectations push retailers to accelerate their pace of innovation. And we have the webinar the afternoon of December 16th.
Perfect. If you're a pro subscriber, you can go to insiderintelligence.com to read that very report on retail trends for next year. And we'll also throw a link to the webinar in the show notes if you want to sign up for that. Time now for In Other News, but first a quick word from our sponsor, Basis Technologies. Today's podcast is made possible by Basis Technologies. Basis Technologies has created a digital advertising platform that connects people, automates processes, and unifies channels, bringing together programmatic, site direct, search, social, and CTV in one single interface. And through the power of automation, Basis enables brands, agencies, and publishers to build and operate a healthy, secure, efficient, and profitable advertising organization. Ready to take control of your advertising? Just go to basis.net today. That's www.basis.net. Basis Technologies, the future of advertising has arrived. All right, folks, we are back today. In other news, Heinz has created a limited edition plantable label. And would you pay over $700 for A&W apparel? Story 1, Heinz has created a limited edition plantable label for customers in Brazil that contains 2 tomato seeds, or tomato if you're American, to legitimately remind customers where ketchup comes from. The activation is part of a campaign called Tomato First. And every month, Heinz will ask consumers who bought one of these labels with the seeds to post a picture of their tomato plant and even document the process or offer tips, notes Alexandra Jardine of Ad Age. If the plant is growing as it should, the consumer will get a restaurant discount. Suzy, do you see this as a gimmick, or should brands be a little bit more innovative with their packaging?
I think this is brilliant. I think that this marketing campaign has everything that you would want in one campaign. It's limited quantity, it's interactive, it has influencers, it has everyday people. It's also educational, which I think is exactly why they did it, right? When people think of ketchup, they think of sugar and they don't think about the actual tomatoes.
Yep.
And I actually didn't realize it came from real tomatoes. So I think there is a small component of education that's happening. Is it gimmicky? Yeah, sure. But it's not on a ton of bottles. And you're like excited to have that bottle if you find that bottle in that particular store that they are doing this with in partnership. I think it's really cool. And I think Heinz is doing some very interesting things. There is an example also of their using QR codes on a new packaging that they're using, which has less plastic. And so the QR code sends you to a green quiz where you can find out more about how sustainable you are or your practices, and you can learn more about the product. I think they're doing some cool things.
Yeah, it's very cool. I don't plant anything because it would die immediately, but I want some seeds. And I also don't live in Brazil, so this isn't possible. But now all of a sudden, I want to get a limited edition packet so I can get some seeds. I like the exclusivity of it. It reminds me of the golden tickets from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So I think it's very cool indeed.
And it's like a scavenger hunt kind of, because you want to find one of those bottles, you know. And as a brand, they're myth busting and they're creating this excitement. I think it's brilliant. Yep,
absolutely. I agree with you. Story 2. Would you pay over $700, $715 to be exact, for A&W apparel? The chain's new swag takes brand merch to a new level, writes T.L. Stanley of Adweek. Would you buy an A&W varsity jacket or Thorogood boots at designer prices? A&W certainly hopes so, launching a clothing and accessories line inspired by a popular menu item, which will see local designers and manufacturers make custom-made, one-of-a-kind pieces from $45 on up, and way up at that. Suzy, can high-end apparel work for the fast food brand?
No, this was absurd. This whole thing is absurd. I Googled it. They have a website.
Moving on. Go on.
No, it is like, and it's not even McDonald's. Like, I don't know where A&W sits in the burger chains, but it's definitely not, I can't imagine that it has a big following. Maybe it has a very loyal following, but it's certainly not a big one compared to some of the other chains, right? So like, none of this makes sense. And they didn't do another, like, you know, there are a lot of other absurd partnerships. You know, like there are some weird ones where you're like, how did this happen? A&W went at it alone. And they're charging $715 for boots. Like none of this makes sense to me.
Yeah.
What do you think?
If you're a Cleveland Browns fan, then maybe, because the colors are the same.
Maybe.
But no, or a root beer enthusiast. I'm a big fan of root beer, but I don't need the jacket. If the jacket was maybe a bit cheaper, like $100, maybe, but probably not. I have a t-shirt with Coca-Cola on it and one with Pepsi, so I would buy something like this, but not for $700.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I have maybe t-shirts that say Macy's on them that I wear, and I am very proud of it. Or like Roots Canada. I have tons and tons of t-shirts that say Roots Canada somewhere on them and I guess it's not quite the same as a food brand, but still it's like branded items, that are unexpected. But they're cool. Like, is A&W cool? Like, I didn't even know that factored in as a cool brand when you think about it. Like Pepsi and Coke. When I was a little bit younger, it was cool to wear some of those t-shirts that said Ford or like the Coke. Like, this was like trendy, right?
Yes.
But A&W? Maybe a vintage.
See. Right. That's what I mean. A vintage tee for $35.
Yeah.
Done.
Did you look at the merchandise? Because there was something that had cheese curds on it. Like, it doesn't even have the logo. It's just like the whole thing is weird. It's like a joke. It's like April Fools in September or October.
Yeah, it's a tall order. But good luck, A&W. We'll see. That's all we've got time for this episode. Thank you so much to my guests. Thank you, Suzy.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun.
Of course. Thank you for hanging out. And thanks to Victoria. She edits the show, produces things. She does everything. And thanks to everyone listening. We'll see you tomorrow for the Behind the Numbers Daily, an eMarketer podcast made possible by Basis Technologies.